Siley doesn't understand. This is not as much as possible. Ellie against the analyst. Siley just said that. If we produce too much, the people of the king's country don't run out of our produce. Product hoarded will have to do SAO. I don't know how to answer this. Then look at the discount. Ellie continued. This is also a way, as you call it, of not treating the root. Your Majesty is also curious. If according to our plan, our team producing raw may actually have to stockpile. What are your plans? Save the Wind calmly replied, of course. Across the sea is not a new market SAO. Look at Ellie, replied Ellie. Ellie didn't trust me. Your Majesty, said Fabro. But not. That's the country that's going to fight us. Siley standing by also doubted or thought, what are you kidding about doing business with the enemy? He told them to carpet them first and then do business again. When he finished speaking, everyone in the room ran out of words. It's like saying that. Ellie also analyzed tongue Fabro. If Milla's intelligence wasn't flawed B, their market is really valuable. Here Siley still can't believe. Really think about selling things to people. Enemy delivered. After the meeting, Ellie led Siley outside the room. Shay just left the room. It's like lifting a heavy burden and breathing a sigh of relief. Ellie saw the document husband and asked, why Siley? The Sadler bowed his face. Joseph said, I feel like everyone's good. Thinking I'm not keeping up at all. Ellie saw that. Then encouraged Siley is the powerful king by his side. You'll discover that the world is very different. Then she turned her head and looked back. You'll find this is an incredible process. Listening to Ellie say that Siley is also more confident in herself. The smiling face replied, yes, I'll appreciate it. Siley couldn't help but think. I have to be serious about studying tonight. In Sun Vang Yu forbidden to explore under a large mountain. Workers are conducting mining tunneling. Every car is carried out. Suddenly, a worker came out of the tunnel. I need you to come over here. The person outside nods and goes inside. Oh, wait for me. Not knowing that you're not far away. There's a shadow behind the bushes. Eyes as red as blood. There was anger in his eyes. Suddenly, the man's face changed and he shouted. Then point behind the other person. Be careful first. The first name startled. Big eyes looking out behind me. In Trong city of Lu Feng. A worried voice emitting something. The team was not attacked. What's the casualty situation? Is there a timely cure? Without treatment, they would all die. Ellie looked stupid and kept talking. Without listening to what I'm saying. Again, I said there were no casualties. Ellie is very upset right now. If you're not saving the wind, I just punched him in the face. At this point, I realized I was being ridiculous. I was afraid to look at the angry glass. Liu Feng laughed, scratching his head, avoiding Ellie's gaze, said, to raid the construction team is SAO. Ellie doesn't want to be angry anymore. That opened the report raw notice with the wind. Wild animals with 4 limbs, black and white body. Black eye, white ear hole. I was so excited to think of something. So it's not the same as CA far from SAO. At the base of the wind is a small panda. Cute girl is swinging on her feet to sleep. Ask more about the animal, they caught it. Stupid Ellie caught it, but it's in the square now. worried about what the situation is. If you're a Casa peer, should not be taken to the Emperor's palace. Ellie couldn't help but think about the scene this morning. In front of the square, everyone eyes bright as Sao. That shows strong love for pandas. Ellie explained that it wasn't even because of the escort. To make people into curious Chang and Sao. People find it lovely. I want to surround you. I want you to be a little late to bring it to me. He paused for a moment. Ellie continued helplessly. It's been 3 days tonight. They also ignore the raw. I can't help but think in my head. No tiger is the power of national security. Ellie was disgruntled and asked for an exile. I don't know what's so cute about that name. Then changed the drooling face. He seemed to answer. If you eat well, you feel cute. She looked at Ellie like that. Tears in my back like I didn't say raw. I almost forgot. Like you don't understand the power of national security. Gu Feng was looking forward to seeing the National Guard. I asked him where the panda is now. If there's no problem, I don't mind raising another one. The wind has just finished, and a cute panda comes in from the outside. Ellie points to the door where the panda says, "Here." The panda was very surprised. That CA is far from the foot. He also looked out at his own kind. Kier panda is twice as big as Casa, and the two pandas looked at each other furiously. Suddenly, Casa jumped over Ra towards the panda Kier. Mouth wide open, sharp fangs appear. His face was filled with excitement. That the Kier panda saw Casa do. They also jump up and down. I saw the situation and Ellie was scared and shouted, "Hey! Don't fight anymore." Mina in the back glowed. Look at the scene that's about to happen. As opposed to people's worries. The two pandas came close to each other and hugged each other. Cuddled together like you and me. There's chalky air around the two pandas. Extremely warm, cute. Save Feng see that. Exclaimed with a satisfied face. Oh, so cute. Cute too. Ellie next to me breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, they didn't fight. Or this place is a mess. Mina in the back didn't know what to say. 5 minutes later, the paper was splattered on the ground. Everything is a mess. But the exile. Mina and Ellie are black. The devil doesn't believe what he sees. And Mina and Ellie were angry and gloomy. I want to eat and watch the pandas. That the two oligarchs in everything are still playing together happily. Everywhere the two of them go. It's not intact. Save the blue face. I'm tired of watching these two pandas wreaking havoc. Just raise one. I just came to ask if anyone wants to feed me. Let that person feed you. The Ellie and Mina looked away. Look at each other and laugh. I just said lovely. That's what Ellie said. You have to fight for your head. Or let people line up in every house one day. AI also has a part. Suddenly, the wind came up with a thought. There's a fair amount of AI. We can build zoos. Ellie and Mina comfort, or zoo. It's a very large garden. Lots of animals I've seen. Or have not seen people just give tickets. It's possible to visit animals. The two Mina, Ellie thought. For a while, the zoo was a food repair warehouse. There's good food in your head. It's made of care animals. Think about it, you can't help but drool. Happy face because you will eat well. Look at these two hungry people. Words can't be said. Save the vice. Even though I arranged to go outside the city. Find a beautiful mountain. Planning a zone. And send people out to find all kinds of wild animals flying in the sky. You can go underground and swim in the water. Ellie happily nodded yes and hurried to work. At the palace of the Kingdom of Olives, the king sat on Gaoi or asked his courtiers. The amount of iron in the Han dynasty needs to increase again. SAO retainers kneeling below in a hurry-dirty newspaper. Yes. He said there will be more next time. The king's face stopped. In my head, can't help but think, but now, the only could meet the needs of the Han dynasty. But if we continue to cooperate, the iron will one day be used up. Until then, the benefits will go to other countries with iron reserves. The best way is, thanks to a good relationship with the current state. Borrow his resources. Find another growth path. National, the king ordered the duke to come here. The servant bent down and said yes. Then go out to work. In the palace, a voice came out, Your Majesty. The duke continued, Ori has a training team. No dealings with foreigners. Your Majesty does not say. Now I want to use iron as a wage. Learn new science and technology. You don't care about my training. Kwok Fuang above explained. Now, the Han dynasty has many techniques. Our tools are more advanced than ours. If we try to mine iron, that other countries learned new techniques from the Han dynasty. I will have a day. We'll be water with only iron left. Thrown away by time, the Duke said angrily. Not necessarily based on the Han dynasty. We ourselves have a way of growing. The Duke-elect's defense is still stubborn. Then it's simple to shout angrily. He didn't know the science and technology of the Han dynasty. How terrible it was after all. The Duke-elect is still not right in fact. Your Majesty is looking for an excuse for disobedience. Right? The defense can't say he's angry anymore. Say you. Then turn to the side of the Chain Duke. The Chain Duke thinks so too, Sao. The Chain Duke hastened to peace. Tension between the two. The Duke pulls, the Duke says. Kai Bai, the Duke and I are going to see it. The Duke stood by, surprised to see the Chain Duke. The Chain Duke continued the 1,000-year training of the Olive Country. If you only rely on yourself, you say you want to fix it. We will love. But if the Han dynasty is really what you say, just good for water, everything is negotiable. Kwok Fuang nodded. This is a good idea. If you go, you'll change your mind. The Duke made an angry face, turned to the Chain Duke and shouted. Why did you agree to replace me? I'm not going to change my mind. Kwok Fuang laughed loudly. If you decided that, let's go to school this time. I'll help you. Ask for a spaceship. The two dukes were surprised what the spaceship was. 3 days later, the creaking sound of the muscle and the propeller. The surrounding wind rises, the trees' branches around flying in the wind. The two dukes replied and scratched their faces, surprise hair flying around the back. The two dukes looked up at the strange thing in the sky. It's a space shuttle floating in the sky. The Duke shouted in disbelief. This is the SAO spacecraft. It's possible to create something so big. Suddenly, the king stood behind. I looked at the two of you laughing so suddenly. Put your hands on the shoulders of the Duke. This will be an unforgettable trip of a lifetime. The spacecraft floating in the blue sky. DAC standing on the boat. Look at the view from above. Never stop complaining. Actually flying in the air, SAO. Technology is too expensive, do you think so? Mr. DIC asked, then turned to your partner. Sitting on a spaceship seat, I saw that he was trembling endlessly. Hands holding head trembling all over. The mouth is murmuring, "Let me down. Let me down." So you have a fear of heights. After a long time, the ship finally landed on the ground. DAC patted his friend's back. Still running out of spirit. Next to comfort. Okay, it's here. Hearing that, the noble rose up. Mentally, he looked ahead. A landscape with massive buildings emerging. I can't help but wonder. This is the SAO school. 2 people from where the spacecraft landed. Walking the streets, while others are walking on the sidewalk. The 2 men stood down in the street. Hida IC said, "It's just that." A car coming from behind. When I saw 2 people blocking the road, I screamed, "Do you know how to respect traffic rules?" You 2 look back. You can't help but wonder if you're going to see. What is this car that can run so fast, SAO? But the DAC aristocracy had no time to react. From the other side, a cyclist zooms by. The more curious you look, this is also a car. 2 wheels SAO can balance. How to make this wheel so delicate? The 2 continue their walk. Nobles see new things for the first time. They don't stop coming everywhere to that place. Excited as a child. Soon enough, your hands are full of all kinds of things. He exclaimed, just as His Majesty Robinson had said. The Han Dynasty is a good place. The guy behind you is tired. Take the towel in your hand. The streams of sweat pouring out like rain. His face was a little empty of thought. So quickly was convinced. He asked, "So now, you don't object to your disobedience anymore?" Then the old man turned his head and expressed his thoughts. Predetermined training. In fact, I don't want the iron to fall into the hands of another. Let others be strong and then come to bully us. But now, according to the excavation of the Han Dynasty, iron is a resource that is not enough. It doesn't make sense to hold on. Now we have to think. Which technical items of Han Dynasty to learn? We can develop a better country. A sound echoed through the conversation. He pricked up his ears and tried it. He asked the noble DIC if he heard anything. He skin IC pointing hands forward say, "I hear it getting louder." Look ahead. Someone is holding a red flag. Whistle blowing out of your mouth as if you're giving an order to something. The 2 nobles glanced at him. A long train passed by. The 2 men turned their faces and he asked, "This is also a car. The train passed in front of me. You 2 got to the last car." He asked again, "Can you see it? It's full of stuff in the car. Each compartment, I guess, weighs 30 T. There were 10 of these weight carriers just now." Speaking of which, he did not calculate any more. He raised his hand. His eyes filled with fire decided. Development direction, the future of olives. It will be shipping. You've got to let this show up in olive water. Maybe this is also Mr. Deck's general thought. He was also pleased to say, "Then let's go to the Han Dynasty." In front of the king's gate, a loud voice boomed out, "Your Majesty does not receive guests." The doorkeeper answered yes. "All the guests want to see your Majesty. They all have to go through the consulate. Only important guests. Your Majesty, we have received it in person." Inside the library room, he lifted a cup of tea while drinking. So comfortable. This is the life the king should have. Every day I see people tired. When I saw that you seemed relaxed, Ellie turned around and glanced at me. "I'm relieved and you're not relieved at all. When are you going to share my work?" Ellie couldn't help but get a little angry. He scratched his head and said it was coming soon. I'm going to go back to the two nobles of the Olive Kingdom. Now the Duke could not help but speak aloud. There is no such morality. Reject the Duke as I am at the door. Your Majesty, do you know the rules? The Duke of DAC was standing next to him laughing, but not speaking. Mediation to the consulate in advance, see, SAO, if the enemy really doesn't mean it. We don't have to waste time either. He pointed forward to confirm. That's the one in front, right? At the consulate, the orange-haired clerk was waiting. She had a professional smile. Put your hands up and point inwards. You two are foreigners invited here. When the Duke saw you, he doubted. You are the one to replace His Majesty. You came to see us, SAO. The girl kept a smile on her lips. Keep explaining. Harm the precious guest. I'm just a receptionist, in charge of recording basic information of two people. Wait after entering basic information. We will consider the purpose of your visit. Distribution to the diplomatic side. Welcome to you. The two of you suddenly looked at each other. I think you two seem to be accepting. The officer continued. Then you two can cooperate with us. Taking down basic information is not reassuring. Your information is known only to the consulate and your Majesty. Two people sit in their seats for information. That's what the Duke said. The staff asked, which country are you from? Who came to the school to see you for what? The Duke answered every question. Where are the olives? I am the Duke. He's the DAC Duke. This time we're here. I want to use iron to trade with you. Maybe to realize this iron mineral trading partnership. The employee explained. Then Ra is welcome. Welcome. Your list is already in our warehouse. We were expecting you two to arrive soon. It's something you two want to talk about. Our consulate does not have the right to handle. We will inform your Majesty. Let your Majesty deal with it himself. I hope you can stay for 2 more days. Of course, we will provide accommodation for guests, including a day of 3 meals. If you don't, you can stay. In front of the hotel, Duke Deck stood back and asked the Duke to answer. You just refused to stay. The Duke crossed his arms. I didn't answer the DAC's question. Ask the opposite of you. How do you feel about the consulate? Duke DAC reached up and stroked his beard. His face seemed pleased to express his opinion. Very useful place. The first is hospitality, based on people, along with the different importance of things. I'll let different people treat me. Free for second staff waste. There's a preliminary selection consulate. It can also ensure the safety of the Han dynasty. After returning, we can ask His Majesty Rubison to build one. You seem to agree. I think so too. DAC couldn't help but wonder about it now. There is this? What does this have to do with your refusal to stay? Hear that? The Duke smiled mysteriously and replied. Think we're just looking at the consular regime. They know how to do them. So the train doesn't need the Han dynasty either. Technical supply. We can go our own way. To get. This answer makes Duke DAC a little vague. You mean? The Duke raised a finger to explain. Just find someone familiar with the school. You can trust again. Think about how to master these techniques, then take it back to the water. Maybe it's not a waste. It can also be strong. You two are talking. A few meters away, Miller spotted 2 people. He asked for the deck formula. Since when did people come to Chang'an? The DIC formula shows that Miller has just come up with a plan. When you talk, go up and put your shoulder to the task. Miller, you're just in time. We have an important mission for you. After listening to two people say that the task seems to be a lot of love, it's not very good. The Duke saw such a conniving attitude. I can't help but get angry. What's not good? I told you to do it. Maybe you want to resist the order. As a long time hastily clasped hands bowed, the face says dare not. Duke.ic saw that and put his hand on Miller's shoulder. Cheer up, Miller. To dig up Kier's technical talent. It's good for the country. Until then, after the olive oil became a really powerful country. You don't have to go far to school. Give them iron. On the contrary, they will ask us. We'll chase you to the door. Just so you can give them the iron. Hear the juicy words of Duke Dac. Miller was a little shaken. Finally, he showed an acceptable face of determination. I go. The old Duke Dac saw you and raised two fingers. Victory. Afternoon at the aviation factory. Everyone is ready to go now. Aviation technicians sleep. I was walking and yawning when I heard a call. This is not a dream. Jack looked up to see who was calling. As Mr. As if floating from the wagon, smiling. Did he do it? Or maybe I'll take you for a ride. Jack didn't have the luxury to refuse. Sorry to bother, Mr. Miller. In the car, Jack looked concerned. Jack's been looking bad lately. What happened, Sao? Suddenly, I was asked to get a little startled. Then he laughed and said nothing. As long as he continues his plan of attraction, he continues to invite. It seems like there is something new today. They also introduced new wine. I don't know if you're interested in having a drink with me. Jack sounded a little hesitant. I'm going to refuse. But before he could say Miller interrupted. I know you're busy. But to relax appropriately, also to do a better job. Okay? In the end, I have no desire to refuse. So respect is not equal to obedience. The sky did drug floor. It also turned to the black of the night. In the dining room, I don't know when I got drunk. My mouth is always complaining. The fat man is higher than me. Wrong makes me enough. I don't see how bad I am. When building a spaceship, it's because I solved a technical problem. The new ship was built. Like sitting on the opposite side, patiently listening to you. In your mouth, say yes. It's outrageous. With Jack's power, it's entirely possible to be alone in charge of building spacecraft. As Miller said that, Jack's getting more and more of a say. Right. Give me a chance. I'll build it for you. After that, Jack hesitated. But there's no chance. Just the fat guy over there. Han Dynasty will have no chance. Let me build my own spaceship. It sounds like he's suddenly saying something profound. If there is such an opportunity, Jack suddenly froze when he heard that. Miller begins his plan to entice the Kingdom of Olives. Wherefore people as technical as Jack, very respectful, as long as you go to the box. We'll put you at the center. To build a team of 5 spacecraft. Everybody on the team has to listen to you. Of course, allow enemies as much as the Han Dynasty. I don't know how to decide. But I saw after hearing those words. You blush excitedly. After eating and talking to Jack. On the way home, thinking. Jack said he would think. But look at that face. You must have been moved, then count the others. In the following days, Miller goes everywhere in Chang'an. Attract many people, until one day while on the road. I thought this task was going to be difficult. I can't believe it was completed so quickly. I have to report to the Duke and the DAC. Suddenly, the dead. of the army protecting the city. He appeared in front of Miller. Makes him wonder. The strangers. To put up an arrest warrant and speak out. Get a lot of people reporting. I want to take the secret into Chengen arrested. It's like a panic show right now. He thought to himself. SAO was revealed to be the person who contacted the SAO report. It's impossible. I gave them such a generous reward. They can't be unmoved. Stop for a few seconds. Milu began to defend the police chief. Are you wrong? Why am I leaving you now? Death behind the throne. Just straight out, Miller exposed. It's not wrong. That's him. When I saw Jack, I was surprised to ask Jack. Why are you here? Jack directly admitted. Because I'm one of the reporters. Miller couldn't help but scream when he heard this. Why are you not dissatisfied with your work situation? I also don't like SAO Kingdom. The glass can give you a better life. Why report again? Armor hands up. The thumb pointed at itself and answered boldly. Because the Han Dynasty is my country. Is that it keeps me from being hungry for a meal. No meal became as delicious and warm as it is today. They are respected by everyone. I will absolutely not betray the Han Dynasty. After Jack finished, Miller has no excuse for being handcuffed. Let's go straight to the place of arrest. In the dining room of the Emperor's court, everyone in the room knew everything. Ellie couldn't help but scream angrily. Dare to spy on the secret of Chengen. We've got to give him some face. When the wind stopped, he called for peace. Don't rush the good stuff. It's normal to have people watching. Ellie was even more angry than the young master. Why do you talk for them? Save the room laughing unless you start explaining, not speaking for them. It's the truth that you're right. I can't leave them like that. I told you to search below starting today. Set up a new rule. All foreigners into the Han Dynasty. All had to study the law books of the Han Dynasty. We must obey our laws. Violators will be deported. Permanently unable to enter. Ellie seems pleased to hear that. That's right. Give it to me. Siley has been listening. I still have some questions about that. But it can control others. Don't mess with SAO. He thought of the Dukes and DAC in his mind. Then answer. There's nothing that can at least restrain some people. Of course, for those who actually have the guts to have a plan. They need special parts. Mina sits on the left. He just picked up a knife and cut the food on the plate. Just seemed excited to say. That kind of person. My valet squad in private safety. Will be very interested. I heard Mina finish. The wind is still very leisurely. Pick up a glass of wine and start talking. People don't have to worry too much either. A lot of techniques, according to the diffusion of knowledge. The Han Dynasty also had no way of ensuring, but as long as the Han Dynasty can always maintain its lead, science and engineering, you will lose 7 points to other places. Keep the lead, of course. You can't rely on yourself. It's time to introduce a new policy. The next day on the street. Newspaper sellers are constantly delivering special news. Your Majesty has a new order. Set up the patent office. Encouraging people to invent. People on the streets are curious. They called the boy who sold the newspaper and sold them a copy. People gathered around to read the latest news. The man in the hat read aloud. Just be able to optimize or manufacture raw machinery, equipment in the industry I work in, or improve the tools of life in front of you. Can apply for a patent. The blonde next door also read more. Just need the patent office to check it. Can achieve a generous national award across the world. The beast in the back shouted. Wait here, first class gets 100 gold. When the person in the hat hears that, he points to the newspaper and speaks aloud. That's the point, SAO. Look at the best prize. Listen to the man in the hat. The blonde looked at it. Then I can't believe I screamed. Oh my God, the royal honor. Enjoy the benefits of the kingdom. There is still an opportunity to study at the Ministry of Science. Listen to here. The man in the crotch hat explained what I heard. The best area in Trongen. It will later be converted into a sub-district, specialized for people at the top. I don't even need money anymore. The blonde heard that. His eyes glowed with enthusiasm. This is a chance to step into the sky. I'd love to try it. The man in the hat said, what did you get to try? There's no logic, there's no technique. The blonde is still burning. I can study, yes. I can go to the library. Finished talking, he immediately ran to the library with 3 legs and 4 legs. I'm coming. The man in the hat heard that, and his eyes glowed. SAO library is also a good place to try. There's only one left. The orange-haired beast is still scratching his head. There are 3 question marks on the face. I don't understand what just happened. In the library room, Ellie stood by Liu Feng's desk. Have fun reporting. Your invention just came out. Everyone runs to the library. Everyone wants to invent something. I heard that. He smiled and replied with satisfaction. It's only good that the Kier will investigate. Until then, the cultural level of the whole city is elevated. One of the 10 tools of invention is usable. We can help this country in the end. You can slowly form your own generation. Speaking of which, I suddenly stopped thinking. Tell me if later. I don't need to copy the Earth's technology. Are these people? There's a special scientific and technological development of heterosexuality. No wonder I feel so excited. He thought back and showed a cunning face. Ellie looked at me and said softly, I think of weird things again. Ellie continued to ask the young master. Story of Miller Water Ole. How do you want to solve it? He hasn't said that yet. It's the AI that instructed him to dig up our talent. I heard that, and I raised my hand to a few. His face seemed to know everything and answer. No need to think anymore. It's definitely 2 formulas. Oli has recently arrived in Trongen. I'm sure the good stuff of Chang'an has clouded my mind. You can get the benefits at any price you want. The wind suddenly burst into a smile full of meaning. But the benefits aren't easy, so it's time to meet them. Outside the imperial palace of Chang'an, the 2 dukes of Umbrella Water, the glass is summoned for the meeting. An animal girl bowed her head to the 2 reverends and said, 2 dukes invited here. While moving, the duke turned to speak quietly to his companion. The Han dynasty is finally willing to meet us. Duke Dac heard that and translated the input as well. Put your hand over half your mouth. This moment is very coincidental, but no matter what Miller does, we absolutely do not accept it. The Duke replied when he understood. I know what you mean. Inside the palace, sitting on the throne, looking sluggish. Both sides are Ellie and Mina. 2 dukes just walked in. He immediately bowed his head. Not deprived of olives, Duke Dac of Ali saw His Majesty Han Dynasty. Just look at the 2 of you. Put your hand up and say, no, I can't accept your ceremony. Even though the 2nd generation is not happy, trade fairly with my country. That's what Liu Feng said. The Duke then asked what His Majesty's words meant. It's because Robin painted us. I want to build a long-term alliance with you. Just sent us on purpose. I see them trying. Love doesn't understand what it means. Master of the national conspiracy. Use unusual tricks. Want to dig up my country's special talent. Don't tell me you didn't know he told you. as directed by you." The two dukes heard that,